Wait. We're good. You like that?
Yeah.
So, Dad, have you seen this? Like, it's become very popular. Do you see that camo hat in the background? Hold on just a second.
No,
I see it. It's kind of small from our perspective, but
Puma has like a whole new golf line. This is like what cool companies are doing now, and it's all camo.
where's
They make
mine?
partnerships with Realtree.
Where's
I
mine?
dig that.
Do they
Hey,
have a whole?
Do they have like urban camo too?
Look at
Because
that.
like I don't end up in the woods nearly enough for
yeah,
that. To
you
be
recognize
practical.
this?
I do. I remember that day. That was
Don't you
March
remember this?
2015.
My 25th birthday.
You guys
25th
were
birthday.
catching
Spitter
sharks.
sharks.
I took
Yeah.
you skydiving. Remember that? Lake
That was
Okeechobee?
still to this day the craziest thing I've ever done in my entire life. Do you
That
remember?
that was a surprise, right?
That was a great surprise. It wasn't the skydiving itself that was crazy. It was the people that took us skydiving.
Oh yeah, they were cowboys. I mean, they're very professional, but a little
I
bit.
told the guy, I said, I've done skydiving 5 times now. And I said, I want to flip as many times as you'll allow me. And I've said that to every single skydiving instructor ever since. No one's done it. This guy, though, just
Oh yeah, my guy was one of those fellas that comes across as a cowboy, but when you ask to do flips, he's like, "This is gonna be all business, pal." Even though I'm well aware he can do flips. You know what?
Yeah.
That video. Every time you go, they make you watch that video from like the '80s. I'm sure
that
it's like
creepy guy with the
beloved
beard.
feature of the community. So maybe they just never will change it. But I would appreciate an update at this point.
Yeah.
I can't watch that
agree.
thing. And also maybe quicker. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they got to do a better job. All right, boys and
Remember when
girls.
they took George Bush? Do you remember when they took George Bush, the president, and they skydove him? I don't think he knew where he was. He was
No.
on the
I
board.
think he did it every year on his birthday. That was my
all right.
impression. And then, yeah, maybe he didn't know where he was towards the end. I think he was pretty sharp though the whole time.
Still, the best presidential line of all time is when George Bush addressed the nation about what was going on with terrorism. And then he goes, "Now watch me rip this ball." And he turns and smacks the ball into the distance on a golf course.
Yeah,
I
that
think-
one video encapsulates like his whole presidency pretty well.
Yeah, I think the more I think about it, at least the time that I've been aware as a person, there's only one president that I think I can go through a whole campaign without any real hate, and it was George W. Bush. He's kind of like the golden retriever of America. So, boys and girls, you know the deal. We are here for what we call True or Not, where I do some interesting research on the internet, and my dad and I will get together and kind of review some of the things and just talk about history, current, old, the past, the future. And now my brother has been attending some of these phone calls, and now he is attending our first podcast. So this is going to be super exciting. You're going to get Garrett's opinion for a short while because he's got to get ready to go help the kids. But the first article I'd like to bring up today is the story of the Jam Boys. Dad, did you get to look into this at all?
I got the Jam Boys. I got the Jam Boys covered.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there's a story that back in the day, during the colonial Brits used to play golf, and to make sure that they didn't get bugs and mosquitoes, they would have Indian guys cover themselves in jams to attract the bugs. And I know that sucks for them, but I just want to know if it's true or not. And I gotta hear the story. Dad, did you look into this at all?
Well, there's two things. The first one is it's unusually racist. Unusually. But this is great. I really love this because there were no Jam Boys, but where there were is there are women who made bras. Okay. And they misinterpreted this as to being Jam Boys. It's Jam bras. The women in India used to make bras, and they get shipped to places like the UK. So there was something that sounded like that, but it had to do with brassieres. It had nothing to do with boys they put jam on. Now, Prince Charles had a group of soldiers who were like his regiment, And they did have people called jam boys, but that was the nickname for these people because the tallest guy in the regiment would get an extra bottle of jam when they went to war because he was taller and needed more food. So, no, I don't know how he turned it into all this, but it's not only racist, it's insane. It's like the guy was on LSD when he invented this. So, is such a thing? Yes. Does it have anything to do with this? No.
Okay. I'm kind of bummed because
I would love for the conspiracy theory to live on, though. That's a pretty lively one. So, you can pretend what Dad just said.
Strike it from the record.
Yeah, strike it from the record.
Strike it from the record. I don't think that's a valuable.
I mean, it is a wild. That's a wild one.
That picture that shows up for a brief second of the two guys just covered in jam with mosquitoes all over them is what killed me. I was just like,
in the context of like all the crazy stuff with colonialism, that's one of the more like creatively mean things I have heard.
Hold on, there's another one. Okay, so check this out. So while the British were invading India, they went over there and I guess they were totally petrified by the idea that there were tons of cobras around. So they would basically pay the local Indians a certain amount of money every single time they brought in cobras. And then supposedly these guys found out that basically they could just make a shit ton of money off the British Army if they just started breeding cobras in their homes and started to really take advantage of basically just this loophole. Any truth to this, Dad? Garrett?
Before you weigh in, I'm going to vote yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm just going to vote yes. It sounds like like something clever people would do at some point. I know that there's something like this happens in New Orleans with Nutria, which we don't have to get into, but give us the truth.
Okay, so the first thing is that people do breed cobras.
Of course.
Now, that doesn't mean these guys breed cobras, but people breed. There's no truth to this at all, except for the fact that people do have hobbies. I don't know why, of breeding cobras, but the idea that the Indians were breeding cobras so that they could bring them in and say, "Oh, I found this cobra, give me the bounty," is a complete lie.
Didn't Tito? Sorry, I just said Tito. Didn't Winston Churchill like cut his teeth in India, basically being like one of the wild ones going over there?
Yes. South Africa was where he was captured and escaped. One of the most famous things in Churchill's life was that when he was a very, very young officer, he was arrested and imprisoned in South Africa, and he escaped and was able.
Pretty sure he was India too.
I just want to go on the record and say I think Dad is protecting some cobra breeding interests here. I think he is a paid representative of the cobra breeding industry.
Yeah, that's
nothing to see here.
Nothing to see. Okay, this is one for you, Dad. Did you hear about Dave Whitnell getting the 2 holes in ones and the ridiculous numbers? Supposedly, so Dad, you're basically like an average golfer. You're basically like a hobbyist.
Yeah.
They said the statistics on pulling off, because Garrett and I witnessed your hole in one that one time when we were down in Palm Beach, and supposedly the likelihood of scoring 2 holes in one in a game of 18 for a pro is 1 in 6,250,000. For somebody like yourself, it would be 1 in 150 something million, 156 million.
That is correct.
That seems like brutal odds to me. I mean, what are you including in this? Like,
they say that supposedly you're 4,000.
It was in the no. That's not the key thing. It was in the same round.
The same round of 9 or the same round of 18?
18.
Let me just say this, though. I don't know how to do the math on this one on the fly, but if you take the history of all golf games ever played in the human history, the odds of at least one person having this happen to them are probably not that bad. It's like when you run into someone at the airport, you're like, what are the odds they run into that fella? And very low. But the odds you run into some fella.
Okay, there's an asterisk.
Grayson, don't lie to us.
There's an asterisk. He got these 2 holes in one over 11 holes. It was an 18-hole round, but he had the first one at like hole 1 and the second one at like hole 11. So the odds are not based on 18 holes; they're based on 11.
Well, that doesn't fair. That's not fair. You
Okay,
can't.
I'm just telling you. You wonder why the odds are so crazy. The answer to that is that it's sort of a rig.
Yeah, it's a rig. That's so. As you saying, this guy's lying.
What I'm saying is he's misleading. Anybody looking at this
as a data analyst, Garrett, you should know that people can skew the data. Skew the data. They can skew it. All right, hold on a second here. Dad, you might like this one. Wait. Is this the one? Supposedly the woman who's invented LASIK surgery and has won a Nobel Prize for it has actually not gotten LASIK surgery herself. And she said on record that no one will aim a laser into my eye. And
she's a phobia. Too much Star Trek.
Well, okay, the thing is that she's saying is because of the amount of other factors that go into your eye, like the way that your eye absorbs light and how that will affect different aspects of your body rather than just the true vision of it, that she doesn't want to deal with any of the impairment that might come with the damage done with it. Is this true that the woman, Dad, you've had LASIK? No, you didn't have LASIK surgery.
I haven't. Okay, well, let's start with this. This woman did not win the Nobel Prize. They don't give the Nobel Prize for operations. You know what I'm saying? It's like you win the Nobel Prize for figuring out why the sun goes around the earth. Not
that's kind of like more. I think it's almost more important to figure out people's blindness.
I would love to say if someone does
inventing LASIK surgery. That's not figuring out the physics to have LASIK surgery, which somebody might win it for. It's this. Now, there is no proof that this is true. That doesn't mean it's not true, but there isn't any proof that the woman who invented LASIK wouldn't do it.
Can we get her on the line?
Yeah, let's get her, dude. Her name's Golem Payman. That's a name that I don't know. Is the inventor of LASIK surgery.
How do you spell her last name?
Well, born in Iran. So hold on a second. If I go back, they're saying that this is the woman. And then if you go to Google, now all of a sudden they're saying this guy named Golem Payman is the one who actually created it.
Well, Golem could be a girl's name. We almost called Margot Golem.
Did you?
No. But
January 1937.
There are two things here that are fake. Number one, she didn't win the Nobel Prize. Number two, it does not appear that she was the one who invented this. So number three has to be false. That the person who invented it wouldn't do it, then therefore number three can't be true.
That's
listen. You've got to find the one about Disney World and the Prince Charles.
I was saving this. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So this right here is a piece basically about when DeSantis went after Disney and was trying to have some controlling efforts over them because he felt that they were grooming young children into certain kind of behavior types. And in the process of it, they were somehow able to step out through a loophole because they were not under the jurisdiction of Florida because they actually have ties to the British government and the way that they're owned, and they cannot abide. They don't have to abide by Florida state rules. I sent this over to Dad, and it's kind of a spotty video, but I've heard about this story multiple times. What was the conclusion on this, Dad?
It's one of those things it has a basis in history, but it's not true. In the 17th century, there was something called the Royal Lives Clause, which meant if you granted land to somebody, when that person died, the grant went away. Now, there's probably a section of Florida that was granted by one of the kings to some group, but there's two things. Number one, it doesn't prevent them from keeping Disneyland there. Number two, whoever made the grant died, which means that the Royal Lives Clause in that case means that when that person dies, the grant goes away. Is there sort of a little bit of, also you see Charles there, who's now the king in that little video?
Yeah.
It was definitely not him because we're talking about the 17th century. So
did the British ever control Florida?
No. I mean,
no.
they had
far south.
They did have some land there, but it was very little. It's probably what was eventually used to build British golf courses or something.
It's where Matt Gaetz is from.
Hold on, Dad. So this guy named Daniel Garrity in our comments said that Donna Strickland won the Nobel Prize for LASIK, as I mentioned in that video.
She didn't win it for LASIK.
It says this guy is saying right now, Donna Strickland won the Nobel Prize for LASIK. Let's just look this up. Donna Strickland.
You don't win it for an application. She may have created the technology before it. What's her name?
Donna Strickland. Why did Donna Strickland get the Nobel Prize? She found a way to create a high-intensity laser pulse. So maybe it's the laser pulse itself.
Yeah, she's right. Yes. Listen, if I invent the combustion engine, it doesn't mean I invented the car. It means I invented the technology that makes the car run. So, listen, it's misleading. She did not win. The winning was not for inventing lasers.
That's the whole point of the show.
It was probably used to. That application may have been used as sonar to detect enemy submarines.
Hold on.
I hate to interrupt, but I do need to part ways with the two of you for the time being.
You're missing the best one, Garrett. You're missing the best one. You're missing the best one. Yeah, do that.
This one's hysterical. Okay, so this guy's doing kind of like a comedy skit about how a woman was missing, a congresswoman was missing, and she wasn't missing for a little bit. She was missing for 6 months, taking full pay, and she was the most important person on the board at Congress for controlling the budget of what's going on in the United States government. And that was very recently. And I don't know how much of this is true or not, but what's the follow-up, Dad?
Almost all of it. Almost all of it's true.
And nobody knew that she was in a retirement home with dementia during this critical point of the government's time?
Well, nobody said anything about it, but she's not the chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, which is what they're saying. She was, however, a congressman who was in a care home. And as far as people could tell, she was there for dementia. So this is 90%. I thought when I saw this, it had to be false. I thought it had to be a lie. It had to be a lie. But it's not. It's true.
Strange but true. All right.
Now you're leaving us?
I cannot leave you. This is not what I want.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Right. Listen, on the air live, happy birthday to Jackie.
Yeah, happy birthday to Jackie.
I will convey that to her. You guys continue having fun teaching people what they need to know.
Gary, are you going to come back and regularly do this? Because it's fun.
I'm in. This is fun. I'm having a blast. And I got my white monster here to pump me up.
White monster. I tried Celsius, dude.
All right, I'll switch to Celsius.
Dad's on Celsius too now.
I'll switch.
Dad's on Celsius too now. All right, I'll see you, dude.
Yeah, by the way, this is not a plug for Hunter's sponsor. I drink that Celsius stuff. I don't know what it does for you, but the taste is outstanding.
It's hysterical that you actually. So, no joke. All three people on this call are drinking energy drinks. Garrett was drinking a White Monster this morning. Dad drinks Celsius. I drink Celsius. And this is the honest truth. And I think more people need to just come out with it. Energy drinks rock. I don't understand why the world has such a hard on about these companies, but yeah.
You know what I like about Celsius? What I like about Celsius is that when you read the label on it, it says you should never have more than 2 a day.
Talk to Tito, the guy who runs our cameraman stuff, drinks like 20 of them.
Well, the chances that it says explodes go up every day.
This is hysterical. I love watching the video of the guy actually reading the lines out about the data about this woman. He does such a good job with it. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Did you see this one right here? The Sidran people emerging from the caves outside of Jerusalem after 2,000 years. Is there any reality to this?
No, there is a cave. There were some Syrians living in the cave. 2,000 years is complete bullshit. And it's one of these things that I really love. It's like the first half of the thing that the guy reads, there's some truth in it. Then he jumps to something that's insane, and you're supposed to believe it because, you know, he has a little bit that's true at the beginning. So no, it's not.
Like,
that one I knew was. Listen,
You want some of these things to be true, like they were using crystals.
Okay. Can I tell you something? The minute that they use those crystals, like those fake crystals that look like they're, they're from the guy's ice box, then you know it's not true. I love this one. Play
Okay,
this
so
one.
this is an interesting one. I don't know if the people can you hear this, Dad, when it's playing?
I can't hear it.
Okay. So this guy right here is sitting there saying that if you get your car towed or impounded, that if someone takes your car without having like papers on it, meaning like the deed to the car or whatever, that now they are technically renting it. And there's some kind of legal ramification for them taking your car, and potentially you can go stand up for yourself in court and basically demand payment for them taking your car without permission. Is there any reality to that? Because I know there's some weird loopholes in the government.
Okay, here's the problem. They took your car because you broke the law.
Sure.
The whole thing about it being a rental after that is insane. Let's say somebody just came and took your car and we're driving it around. Maybe you could go to court and say, this person owes me money. But these cars were impounded because somebody was breaking the law. Once you've broken the law, it's not like you could say, oh, gee, you guys took my car, so I want rentals. It's, oh, gee, I'll pay the fine to get my car out.
But you get where I'm saying here, that there could feel like there's some kind of legitimacy to this, because think about something like international waters. Like you could be a criminal and then all of a sudden you cross over to international waters and now all of a sudden you're no longer able to be like captured as a criminal. Like there's just these things where there's loopholes.
Yeah, but there are loopholes. Like let's say that you killed somebody in New York.
Yeah.
And then you went to Ohio and killed somebody. Now, New York State has to extradite you. They have to go to Ohio. They have to say, I want this guy because I want to try him over in New York. And Ohio can say no. So there are rules that, about who owns what and who has the rights to stuff. But if your car is towed because you broke the law, none of this holds true. None of it.
Is this it's kind of like the first ever case that they were able to kind of bypass that was, remember with Ted Bundy? That was probably around the time where you were in college, when Ted Bundy was going around killing a bunch of like college girls.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was crazy. Do you remember that case where he was killing people in like Seattle, Oregon, Colorado, and Florida?
I don't remember if there was a problem with extradition. See, sometimes states will say, well, I want to put the guy on trial for murder. And the other state says, well, he murdered a bunch of people in my state. So sometimes there's a fight over who gets to try a famous criminal like him and send him to the electric chair.
Ooh. Okay. How do you feel about this 5G thing that I was sending you?
Where is it? Is that on the top? Where does he got that? On the top of what?
It's a water tower. That's a 5G tower that they're in our basically inside of our, street lights, things like this. Like this is a street light. Obviously, it looks like California, and that's a 5G tower.
Well, I don't know. I don't understand what the issue of that even is. There are five.
I guess a lot of people are complaining that I guess one of the things that has become a little bit more of a topic of conversation is that like the power coming out of these 5G towers is really, really not good for you.
Yeah, that's a separate issue. So there's two issues here. There's been a theory for years that if you use your cell phone, it will cause you brain cancer. If I take this phone and I hold it up to my head for 20 years, the 5G that comes through it will fry my brain. There's no proof of that, but there are 5G towers everywhere. I'm trying to get Verizon to put one of those fake pine trees in the back of my house with cell signals on it so I can like get rent from them. So the idea that there's 5G cell towers everywhere is not crazy, but the idea that it gives you brain cancer, there's absolutely no proof of that. So tape a phone, listen. Okay, I'll tell you what. This is what I want you to do. I don't care if you're running high rocks or whatever. I want you to tape a phone to your head, have it on at all times, and then I want to come see you in 20 years and see how your brain is.
You'll look like the people of Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah, that's exactly what you look like.
What was this one? Gosh, what's going on here?
I want the guy who turned out to be a congressman. Where's the good thing about the black guy who turned out to be a congressman?
Oh. Let me find that.
Because that's one of the best
That
ones.
is a great story. Let me find it. Give me 2 seconds. Because I think I texted you that one.
You did.
Give me a second here, and I'm going to send that.
That may have been the best one. It was the last one. This guy ended up becoming a congressman.
Yeah, let me find it. I sent it to you in text, and I'm going to mail it back to myself. That was like one of the ones that's like a motivating, exciting story.
Yeah,
here we go.
Yeah, there's a picture of him with a steamboat behind him.
Boom. Copy link. I'm emailing this to myself. This is a good one. Okay. Be patient, ladies and gentlemen. Come on. Why is this not sending? Copy link. There we go. We're in business. Boom. This one's great. The story of Robert Smalls. Basically was a slave, and during his time, he was able to capture a warship, free slaves. Then basically, beyond that point, he was able to get himself out of slavery and then eventually become a congressman. And he also created the first school in South Carolina, and then he was able to buy the plantation that he was enslaved on.
Yes, and yes. I mean, this guy is so inspirational because he was a slave.
Yeah, I don't understand how you hear about somebody like Malcolm X or Martin Luther King and this guy's name's not right next to them.
Well, because they didn't keep records. It's probably part of it was racism back then, but the other part is, those guys, they were around in the time of television, newspaper coverage. This guy, he was in a part of the United States with the war going on. It was unlikely that he was going to make any headlines.
Well, I mean, they got statues of people like, Ulysses S. Grant, and they got statues of people like George Washington.
Yeah, but they have 500 statues of Lincoln. They have one statue of this guy.
I know, but this is a great story. I mean,
it's a great story, and the best part about it is it sounds like it couldn't be true, and it is.
This is like a micro version of like Schindler's List. Like he was able to free a bunch of people. He did something during a time which was probably, was Schindler, the story of Schindler's List, was he a German or was he a Jew?
No, he was, I think he was Swiss. Let me look it up.
And this is it's just such a good story. Like I love reading old history books about people that are just total badasses. You know what I've been reading about a lot recently? I've just read like this like a small story biography of Dan Gable, the wrestler. You ever read about him?
Yeah.
That guy right there, like I don't understand. Like that guy's a real hero. You don't find out about people who have that kind of background or that kind of like attitude in sports these days. Nowadays, everybody just wants to pitch a fit.
Okay, he was a German industrialist. Okay. Yeah. He saved 1,200 lives, Jewish lives, during the Holocaust by employing them in his factories. And then the Germans killed him. Unlike this guy who had, a good life after the war, they killed Schindler, and they're not exactly how the guy disappeared, but it's one of these things where he disappeared and never showed up again.
I'm going to call bullshit on this video, but supposedly on March 21st, France sent survivor manuals to its citizen, expecting there to be like war on the horizon.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
You don't think so at all? Oh,
why would it be of any value?
I don't know. I mean, like this is thing. It's a conversation I think we had not too long ago, where if things were really going to go south, you're talking about them knocking out the power grids, and supposedly,
they did send manuals to people for things like what would happen if there was a national disaster. But this isn't like that they were worried that the Russians were going to invade. It was stuff that they sent them about what happened in a health crisis like COVID-19, what comes down if the grid gets attacked by cyber criminals. But it wasn't sent to people primarily because the Russians were going to come in and take them over. So it depends on what you mean by survival manual. But they did send them manuals that would be helpful when they were what they called imminent threats.
All right. Well, I'm not going to lie. That's still
okay. Listen, I want to tell you some
truth to that. That's true or not, Dad. And you're riding the line.
All right. I'm right. I am riding the line on this one. What I want to do though is let's see if we can get one of these manuals and get it translated into English. And if it's good, we should distribute it to everybody in the United States.
I will tell you right now that 98% of the people that I know in case of a crisis, that let's just say the power grid was shut off, would be fucked. Like, I don't know anybody in here that knows how to get to clean water. I don't know anybody around me that knows how to make food, how to keep themselves warm. Like, you remember a handful of years ago when the power went off in Texas and like tons of people died because it was too cold?
Yeah, people need to have safe rooms. You know who has a safe room? You know, Pat's brother, George.
Of course, George has a safe room.
He has a safe room at his house in Kentucky.
With a Gatling gun attached to it?
Probably. He can go in there. And if anything happens, he can go in there and protect himself.
Okay, what about this one? China blocks the $23 billion sale of the Panama Canal to a U.S.-backed consortium led by BlackRock.
Okay, this is half true.
Ooh, so, a half truth.
Donald Trump would like to own the Panama Canal, which used to be owned by the United States. Jimmy Carter sold it to the Panamanians for $1. So one of the richest men in China owns ports at each end of the Panama Canal. He doesn't own the canal. Yes. So BlackRock bought those ports from him, and the Chinese canceled it because they thought, they didn't say this, but they don't want BlackRock, which is one of the largest money managers in the world and is based in the United States, to have control of that. So listen, the fact that the idea that it's the canal itself is bullshit. There is a lot of truth to this, though, a lot.
Interesting.
And Donald Trump says he's going to take the canal back from the Panamanians by force if necessary.
Did you see this one right here? Supposedly about 70% of the industrial honeybee hives have died. 68%.
Yes.
Over the past 8 months.
I don't know if it's 8 months, but I know that.
Well, it says right here.
I know, but I'm saying I know they're saying it. I don't know if it's 8 months, but the honeybees have been wiped out across the country.
That doesn't seem good.
Of course it doesn't. They're not just honey for us. They're part of the.
They're part of the entire ecosystem that spreads, the entire botany life.
Okay, so the answer is that happened, and I mean, they had to get a bunch of universities to try to get this back. Honeybees pollinate 100 crops we eat. So that's the biggest problem with it. They pollinate this stuff, which means that the human food chain was actually being threatened here.
Well, I think at this point, they're figuring out that these companies that are spreading all of this crazy shit on top of our crops, you got somebody like Kennedy coming in who's saying it's bad for you. And then all of a sudden, I can't directly say, I was in the honey business for a very short period of time, 3 months. I know mites can kill them. But
well, I think that's what it was. I think that this was a spread of mites killed them. But this is one of the things about the food chain people don't understand It's like one species could be absolutely essential to a whole bunch of things that we eat.
Well, we're fucked.
I guess people don't care.
I got to watch this one. This one was important.
What's this one?
This is basically some kind of prophecy that they found in Native American like history that basically predicted the all-powerful man wearing a red hat, aka Trump with the MAGA hat, and that he would have like a magic man with him bearing the mark of the X. And
well, there is a legend from the Hopi Native Americans, Indians, that there would be a rise of a man in a red hat. It is with a number of their predictions. So apparently the fact that there was a prophecy is true. Who the prophecy was about, though, nobody knows. It's not like, oh, this is Trump or. Do you understand what I'm saying? The fact that there's a prophecy about something doesn't mean that at the end of a period of 100 years, you can say, oh, they meant this guy over here.
Did you see when I sent you not too long ago that supposedly in the Vatican that they have the entire, like, you know how in the Vatican and like what's the name of the big church that they have inside the Vatican?
The
Sistine Chapel?
Is it the Sistine Chapel? And yeah.
Supposedly circling the roof, there are the popes surrounding the entire thing. We have this last spot for the Pope, and then there's only one more spot. And then supposedly it's supposed to all end.
No, you went up there. Going up to the top of the dome, you've done that.
But there's a circling of all the pictures of the popes. There's supposedly no more room for popes after this one.
I don't think that's true.
Well,
the popes are all buried under there.
I know,
but I don't think there's anything
a representation of a painting of them.
I do not believe that's true. I've never ever heard that.
Well, that's never what I'm just saying. But so we think that this thing right here about the Hopi tribe and the power of X and the red hat is true.
I think that the prophecy is true. I think that it has anything to do with anybody living right now is not.
Okay.
The painting of popes thing is crazy. I've never even seen the paintings of the popes.
What's that? In the Sistine Chapel?
Yeah, I've never. I don't think they have. They have portraits of 266 popes, but there's more popes than that. And at some point in the Sistine Chapel, they do think that there isn't going to be enough room, but they're not anywhere close to that.
I'm trying to figure out what I want to end on here. Oh, I got to figure out something interesting. Did you look into this car thing that's going on with the new fuel from Porsche?
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Porsche, so what's going on there?
Porsche is trying to basically invent something that's not a gas-powered car, something that's not an electric car. I think they call the electricity something like e-tron. So their top engineers are trying to invent an actually brand new category of car power. So it's not Teslas are not like it. The gas car Mustangs are not like it. This would be a completely new technology.
So what's the fuel source? It's not electricity?
No, it's chemicals.
Interesting.
Now, if that were to
there's
work,
definitely far more combustible and powerful chemicals on the planet than just normal crude gas.
Well, listen, if they can find something that's in abundance, it could be a big deal, because lithium batteries, lithium is not easy to get. The stuff that's in Tesla batteries is not easy to get a hold of. So if they can find some fuel that's in abundance, that might be a big deal.
How do you feel about the conspiracy that basically part of that gigantic storm that hit and the crisis that hit in North Carolina had to do with deposits of rare metals that would be going into batteries for things like electric cars?
Yeah, let me just tell you this first. Porsche developed e-fuels. It's synthetic fuels produced from renewable energy sources and CO2.
Yeah.
They've invested $100 million in it. If for some reason they could get that to work, that might be a game changer in the car business. The thing about the chemicals in the hurricane is definitely not true.
All right. It's not the chemicals in the hurricane. It's the material in the area.
Oh, that got
was affected by North Carolina. That that they have mining deposits there that could be extremely valuable.
I have not seen that anywhere.
Well, we'll look it up. We will. We'll look it up. Well, guys, we've reached our 40-minute mark. Next week, I'm going to have Kyle Kid Koki on because he is trying to set a world record for the most, Dad, you'd like this, the most amount of holes played in one day on golf. So he's going to be doing a par 3, and I think he's aiming to get 760 holes in one day.
But he's only going to use one par 3?
Well, he's playing. No. He's playing a whole whole course of 9. But he's
so what
just
you're saying is he's just going to keep going around.
Yeah, you've met Kyle, so
I know. Yeah, listen,
it's going to be brutal. So I mean, like I'm talking with him about it every day, and he's done a couple Ironmans with me. I've helped him finish a couple 100-milers. He's a super fit guy. He's an absolute savage, but I think he's going to cover over 100 miles of running, but you got to figure if you're playing over 700 holes and playing a minimum of 4 strokes per hole, you're looking at between 2,800 and 3,000 swings. And if you think about just what like the things that are going to kill him is hands blistering, and you got hands blistering, you got your back. I mean, your shoulders.
He's got to get special gloves.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be the equivalent of almost setting like a pull-up world record. I'm trying to stay on top of them with just shit outside of just working out and running because it's going to be crazy. But
what about that guy, Cory Booker? Did you see that guy, Cory Booker? See guy Cory Booker, the senator who stand up and spoke for 25 hours in the Senate straight? And they said, why didn't you have to urinate? And he said he dehydrated himself before he started to give the speech. So he did not have to urinate for 25 hours. He pre-dehydrated himself.
That's a legend. That's a genius.
He just did it.
But how do you stay up for 25 hours?
Number one, and he spoke the whole time. He was
to who? Who else was up for 25 hours?
People were in the Senate. He's on the floor of the Senate. I'm sure there was times when there was only 4 people there, but he 25 hours and I think 35 minutes, which broke the all-time record. But think about this. The guy dehydrated himself and washed his bowels out so that he would not have to defecate or urinate. He did not have to leave the podium for 25 hours.
That's a sick and twisted man.
I admire the guy.
Listen, it's a sport. It's a sport at that point. That right there is an endurance feat.
What's going on over at Party Sports? Before you go on, what else? What are the shows coming up?
Well, I just told you we're going to be interviewing Kyle. We're going to be interviewing Kyle. Beyond that, I just basically am going to kind of review some world records that are coming up, some things that I've been studying. Like one of the things I really want to look into is there's something called the why am I losing this right now? What's the name of the ultra marathon in Northern California that everybody loves to do? That's like kind of like the golden standard. Can anybody help me here? This guy named Jim Walmsley, and you got another guy named Jim Walmsley. You got Killian Jornet, not Leadville, you turd. Come on, it's in Northern California. It's in Tahoe. Can someone give it to me? It's super, super important. Come on, guys. You're all part of the show. Umstead, you guys suck.
Okay, hang on. While they're doing that, do you know about this woman who's won a bunch of these 100-mile races who has a mental defect, which is she can't tell the passage of time?
Oh, yeah. I read about her a long time ago. I don't know if it's the same woman, but the woman who set the record doing the original person to set the speed record on the Appalachian Trail, the one that I've hiked several times, she went with her husband and she can't keep track of time. So what may be the first 5 minutes may have actually been 5 hours, if not 20 hours. Holy shit, you guys are all idiots. I don't know what kind of crowd of fans.
Anyway, this woman, the passage of time meant nothing to her.
Tahoe, 100-miler race. Okay. No, Tahoe Rim. It's, what is it? Jim Walmsley record. I'm going to get this right now.
Get a better group of people listening to this if they can't.
I know, they're bums. It's called Western States. Okay, so that's one of the things I'm going to research. If things go well, my sponsor, The Feed's going to take me out there after World Championships for Hyrox, and I'll be interviewing people and doing the media there. That's probably the biggest and most important ultramarathon in history right now because of the level of competition, at least in recent history.
How far is
Walmsley, it's 100 miles. It's 100 miles, and they're doing it through the mountains of like Tahoe and stuff in 14 hours. They're holding paces that nearly I couldn't hold for a marathon. They're freaks. They're freaks. And if everything goes well, I'm going to go up there and watch this thing. But I want to do some research on it because you got Jim Walmsley, you got Kilian Jornet, you got another guy who holds the world record for Leadville.
Okay, here's the question. Why aren't you running in it?
I just don't like it. David Roche is going to be there also. He set the record for Leadville, which was really impressive. I'll admit, I don't have any attraction whatsoever to doing 100 milers. Like it's one of these kind of things where by the end of it, you remember when I used to do those 24-hour Tough Mudders?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a humongous sense of accomplishment and some of my fondest memories, but your body does change almost permanently. Like you lose toenails, your face kind of gets wrinkled.
You remember there was a guy who ran with you. You didn't let him go to the bathroom.
Yeah, he shit his pants, and
I wasn't going to say that.
Yeah, like it's crazy. Like, and I really think that stuff permanently affects you. Like, do you remember like the story of the guy who stayed up for as many hours as possible, and then he permanently got mental illness?
Right, I think that's true. You get
these kind of things are similar. Like you probably will lose a piece of your brain in permanence, like meaning like you get some kind of form of dementia. And like for me, like I think it's astounding. I think it's incredible. I think it's a feat of endurance that I'm fascinated by, but I don't want to be a part of it. Like I would love to do the press.
One of the things that you need to do on one of these shows is the most shocking athletic records.
Yeah.
I don't mean Tom Brady has 7 Super Bowls. I mean stuff that's crazier than that.
I have this book. I bought it. So do you remember when we used to go to the Highland Games?
Yeah.
I went there and I paid the guy because there was this guy who was really interesting. Like he would sat there at the table and he had all these old strength and conditioning books. And I bought a ton of them off of him and had him mail it to the house. So I have a book that's like 60 years old with all of the old records for like the most dips, single arm push-ups, one arm pull-ups, runs, like all sorts of crazy shit. And the guy, it's one of the coolest books. And it's just, I don't even think anybody in the world knows a lot of these records. Like it's just the dopest thing. And I flip through it all the time. And I have it up in my cabin. I just like, if I get bored, I just look at that stuff and I'm like, holy shit, I'm a pansy.
Right. Like how many times do you think the guy who jumped out of the plane the most parachuted? What do you think the record for that is? 3,000?
I can tell you tens of thousands of times. So when we went and set the Murph World record, I became friends with a guy named Chris McNamara, and he is a medic for Tier 1. So there's only a couple hundred of these operators in the world. And he told me when they wanted to learn about stuff, he would literally work with these guys and they would hire the best people. The government would just fund it. And he would work with one guy, he said, had tens of thousands of jumps. And the guy was so astounding. When they would be skydiving, he would intentionally drive his parachute into their parachutes to completely lock them up, start death spinning them to the earth, cut the cords, and then reinstate the new bag. You know what I mean? So to teach these guys in case of emergency to relax, cut cords, and then get the flag back up or whatever, the chute back up. And he said the guy was just crazy. Just super crazy. Do you remember the girl Rory Bozio that I used to do that show with, the ultra endurance show around the world?
Oh yeah, that was a great show.
She's married. I don't know if they're married, but she has a kid with this guy who was a Red Bull skydiver as well. And the stories about him and the amount of times that he would jump and the stuff that he did was just crazy. And you're like, I didn't know people did that. Like these guys are doing 20 to 40 jumps a day.
Really? Shit. Okay.
Well, they just have a plane and they're just going up, drop, up. And you think about it, you're doing drops like, every half an hour.
Okay. Yeah,
you
sure. You could easily
going.
do 20 of them. Yeah, you could do 20.
40 wouldn't be too much, but yeah, crazy shit. And I honestly, like, that's where I want to take this show. It's just interview people that are doing such cool stuff. Like, do you remember the guy who he was the farmer who ended up winning the hardest ultra endurance race in the world down in Australia?
Yeah. He didn't know it was even a race.
Yeah. Like that to me is the most interesting stuff. So I wish I was going to keep this private, but since you're just talking about it, we have a studio over here, but we just finalized, and we got all these athletes from around the world coming. I got a Formula One driver coming up here April 9th, and hopefully that will be the first time I get an in-person interview up here. So that's the direction we're taking it. I love this kind of stuff because in reality, that what I've recognized after being an athlete for such a long time is that you get in your lane and your groove and you become really unaware of so many things around you. So just having conversations like this once a week keeps me fresh.
Good. All right. Well, listen, I want to see that Formula One thing. So let me know when it's going to be on. I'll see you in a few days.
Yeah. All right, Dad. Love you.
Take it easy.
See ya.